What's going on, everybody? And we're back with another video. This time we're into the NFL season, which means DFS is here. And with that being said, I decided I was going to set myself a challenge so that I could help those who are like myself with maybe not the biggest bankrolls. And I'm going to try and go throughout the year with only $200. So I'm going to name this the $200 DFS challenge. With that being said, I'm going to hop into a few what I'm going to call the DFS disciplines. These are just the rules that I'm going to follow for this challenge. The first of which is going to be that I'm only going to use 25% of my budget per week maximum. So if I'm starting with 200, first week I'm only going to be able to use $50. If you're starting with $100, you're only going to be able to use $25. If you're starting with 500, $125, etc. Whatever it is your budget that you're setting for yourself this year, only use 25% of it. That way you guarantee yourself you have to lose 4 weeks in a row before you run out of money and have to reload your account, which is obviously what we're trying to avoid this year. We're trying to be smart gamblers when it comes to DFS. So that's going to be our first rule. Second rule, this kind of applies to that, but we're only going to play showdowns, which is off the main slate, if we're up money on the main slate. This challenge, I'm mostly going to focus on the main slate because I think that's the easiest way to gain edge on the field. So that's what we're going to be focused on mainly for this challenge. Rolling right on into our third discipline, it's going to be one of the hardest ones, one that I'm going to have to focus on this year a lot, which is that we're going to try to avoid tilting. Now, if you've ever played DFS or, standard fantasy football for that matter, you know that tilting is a very real and dangerous way to lose money. Uh, Tilt can happen in a variety of reasons. One of the easiest ways in DFS is maybe your process is super sound. Maybe you have the right game script figured out, but the player that you chose just doesn't go off. And then what ends up happening, I know I fall into this trap in the past, is you go into a next matchup and you just tilt pick a player, or you go into a showdown and you just use more money than you were expecting to use for that. And we're going to try to avoid that as much as we can this year because we want to be smart DFS players. We want to be smarter than the field, and we want to increase our odds of not having to put more money back into our accounts. We want to win money at the end of the year. So that's the goal, obviously. But yeah, rule number 3, try to avoid tilting. Rule number 4 that we're going to focus on is choosing the correct contest. Now, I'm going to go over this later in the video, but just as a general rule for this challenge, what I'm going to be focusing on and what I recommend people that have smaller bankrolls is to focus more on cash style games. And like I said, I'll go over that later in the video, but we're focusing more on cash games. I think that's the easiest way to just increase your bankroll early on, and then maybe later on in the challenge I'll increase our contest selection. But for now, let's focus on cash games. That's the fourth discipline that we're going to try to maintain. The fifth and final discipline that we're going to be focusing on is to create your own player pool. That's the next thing I'm going to be going over, but just know that if you do things in reverse and you listen to the media and you listen to outside sources, then create your player pool, it's going to be more bias driven. You're going to have these thoughts that you have to put in these players. Whereas if you create your own player pool, then take outside sources, it gives you a better understanding of why certain players are going to be better in certain environments. So I recommend creating your own. Like I said, let's just hop in right into an example of my own player pool. So I use a Google Sheet. Feel free to use whatever is comfortable for you. You could write it down. You could use a Google Sheet like I do. It's really just whatever works best for you. But just at the beginning of the week, I recommend going through DraftKings or whatever site you use and just jotting down the players that at their salary you think are good values, players that you like the matchup, players that maybe you think could be sneaky, or players that you just have a good feeling about. Whatever it may be, jot them down. I promise you it'll make listening to the information from outside sources just so much more beneficial because you'll get a sense of a little bit of confirmation bias, which we don't always like, but it's the idea that if you like them and the experts like them, there's got to be something to that, and you can kind of gain edge on the field who are only going to be taking in expert opinions. So I recommend, like I said, creating your player pool before you listen to any other podcasts or any other information. It's very, very beneficial. It's something that I use every week around Monday or Tuesday. I go and check the salaries and then create my player pool. So if you look, this is just one of the benefits of using a Google Sheet. You could see that I have some possible lineups. I have, my near locks, which are I color code them. Week one, for example, I think Pierce is going to be super chalky. I think everybody is going to have him. Uh, Pittman's just another player that has been talked up all off season, so I think he's going to come in. But when we're playing these cash style games, which we'll get into, it doesn't really matter the roster percentage as much. But yeah, so if you look, I go and I know that I need quarterback, two running back, three wide receiver, a tight end, a flex, and a defense. So I'm just going to go through, I'm going to click all my near lock players, and then for this instance, I'm going to use Hurts as my quarterback. And then I'm just going to play around with it. Maybe I'm going to throw in Justin Jefferson. I don't know. I also like Hollywood, so maybe I'll throw in Hollywood and see what I have left. So, see, I only have 7,600 left, so not a lot of budget, but I only need two more players. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? Do I need a really cheap defense, like maybe the Jags or Commanders? Maybe Trevor Lawrence is still, having those rookie slumps. So let's throw in the Commanders defense, see what that gives us. 5,100 left over. I also like Christian Kirk at that price. And bam, there's my near locks lineup. And I'll note that although this is a near locks lineup, this is more just a starting point. Like I said, based on the information that I hear throughout the week and how I, adapt to certain news, I may change the lineup. I may add or remove certain players that I thought I liked early in the week, but now matchups dictate that I don't like them. So you just have to stay flexible. Don't just get locked into a lineup and only choose that. But at the beginning of the week, when you're just going and choosing your contest, which we're about to look at real quick, just have a basis that you can just throw in there. Make sure you get the contest with the lineup, and then tweak it as necessary. You can. The nice thing is, if you submit the same lineup, you can just edit that one lineup, which I do recommend if you're going to do cash games. Don't do multiple cash game lineups. That's one of the biggest flaws that beginning DFS players make, or veteran DFS players make it sometimes too. You just limit your chances of repeating success if you use different cash game lineups. So only use one. But with that being said, let's look at contest selection. And we've kind of touched on it, but we're going to be focusing on cash game lineups. So this is how I find my cash game lineups, especially with a low bankroll. You want to go and sort by the price of the entry fee, which I just do $10, and then go and submit by the number of entrants and make sure that it filters by the most entrants down. And then you want to look for the ones that don't have M, which is multiple entry. You want to do single entry, cash game, large field, double ups. And yeah, that's how I'm going to start off this challenge is I'm going to enter as many of those as I can. And then I'm also going to throw in a few head-to-heads, which I'll show you how to create your own because you want to create your own. And yeah, we'll look at that real quick after. But yeah, just go. This is going to be that near locks lineup. I'm just going to go enter all the players, enter the lineup, have it set. That way later in the week, I don't have to fight for a spot in the contest. It's going to be already set there. And like I said, if we need to make edits, we can make edits to the lineup and make sure that it looks good and we like it and we're confident in it. So yeah, first week, this is what we're going to be rolling with. There's a lot of cash games. And real quick, I'll show you guys how to look at the head-to-head matchups and how to create your own. You're just going to go to the lobby and you're going to click create a contest. You're obviously going to choose the NFL unless you're creating a contest for another sport. We're going to do the classic mode. Pick the Sunday that you're going to be on. So September 11th is week one. You're going to make it a public head-to-head, and then you just choose whatever size you want. You could do $1 up to a crazy amount of dollars. $5, how many ever you want, and then you choose the number. You click next, and then create the contest. However, if you're going to do multiple contests, is a very important detail. Say you wanted to do two $1 matchups. You're going to want to go down, scroll down where it says the number of times somebody could play against you, change it from unlimited to just one time. This is going to give you just way better odds. You don't want to play against the same lineup. But once you've done that, just simply create your contest and you're good to go. But hey, if you made it this far, thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate it. If you would, consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a comment down below. I'd love to interact with some of you guys. And if you want to participate in the challenge, let me know, and let's see how far we can go. Hopefully we can not have to put any more money into our accounts, and like I said, win some money at the end of the year. That's the ultimate goal. But honestly, I'm just happy that football is back, and I know everybody that's probably on this channel is too. So let's have a good time this year, and I'll see you guys in the next video.